Up next, we have a very exciting session by Mr. Steve Tars, who is a process management and customer experience enabler, who is joining us from the USA. His topic is the importance of employee experience and global leadership in the adoption of customer experience approaches. A small introduction of Mr. Steve. Steve Tars is passionate about helping people and businesses transform to better ways with happier lives. Whether that is individuals, team, or companies, he applies proven and tested methods from the very best individuals and corporate achievers to help you codify your success, happiness, and future. He's named as one of the 30 most influential global customer service experts in 2021. Steve is a highly sought after visionary force in leading global organizations, an experienced business transformation leader with over 40 years of success in driving and achieving organization goals in the both private and public sectors in various key C leadership and top level consulting positions. Recognized across industries include BPM, EA, Customer Experience, and LSS. He's the founder of the BP Group in 1992. He developed the world's first and premier network for BPM and customer experience professionals. Now in 124 countries with 130K plus members and affiliate offices in 13 countries, and an inspirational speaker with Amazon #1 best-selling books, previously worked for Citibank, leading restructuring and business transformation programs in the US, EMEA, and APAC, an advisor to global leadership teams, and sits on the steering groups of several leading companies. He's a startup investor and a board member to several innovation SaaS companies. Welcome on board, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Pooja, for that very extensive introduction there. So I enjoyed that.
Most
Thank you.
welcome. Most welcome, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you are on a completely different time zone and you have taken out time for us
So,
for both the days. I will be seeing you today and we'll be seeing you tomorrow. So the audience will get the most out of you.
so people are going to be feeling a little bit masochistic about that today and tomorrow. So
Yes.
yeah, tomorrow's the panels, but
Yeah.
today what I wanted to share and contextually is a little bit about how organisations, despite all the technology we've got, and we heard Vivek just talking a little bit about the technology options that people have got available to them, is to talk about if we do not liberate our employees to be able to do the right thing at the right time for our customers, then it's all not worth anything anyhow. So that's what I'm going to be talking about, is the sort of best practice that's emerging, not just through the pandemic, but it was already coming up to the pandemic. But we all know what the pandemic has done is really accelerate change for us in organisations. So I wanted to share with you the sort of currency of that from a global perspective. But just before we get into that, is give you some sort of context for those people who've not met me and that sort of a thing. The other thing I'll be doing through the presentation is there'll be links from the presentation to more detailed information, more detailed videos, more detailed case studies. You'll see a barcode pop up now and again. And when you get the deck, of course, you'll be able to click those links as well. But in the meantime, if you sort of want to get any of those links, use the barcodes. You can get access to both the sort of some of the books I've written, and I'll include this one for free as well, Outside In. Written in 2010, completely updated for 2021, including case studies from the era of the pandemic, which I think people are starting to refer to it as. There's also other resources that I'll be sharing as well. Just a little bit of background. So let's share my screen and get into the deck. Okay. So what I'm going to, as I say, is this is about employee liberation. Despite the fact that we've got all those fancy technologies, and whether we integrate with WhatsApp, whether we have bots, whether we have all the AI that we need, when we have knowledge-based systems and so on, whilst those things are extremely useful, they miss a very vital component, and that's being able to help our employees be liberated to be able to provide product and service to customers where it's needed. Give you some sort of context for where I'm coming from. I represent a not-for-profit BP Group. We've been around for 30 years, and our ethos is how quickly can we upskill organisations to do this stuff. How we do that globally is across a number of different partners, and in Africa, for instance, we have three main partners: IQ Business, hi guys, the CX Group, and also latterly SCAR have recently joined as an affiliate partner as well. And through those organisations, what we do is we take the codification of best practice from those leading organizations around the planet and in South Africa as well, and across Zimbabwe, across all the African nations, bring those things to bear and put them into training programs, put them into our consultancy and our retainers. So that's just a little bit of a backdrop to show you where this is coming from. This is not theory, this is current live practice. In terms of myself, Pooja gave a fantastic introduction there, so I'm not going to say much more. But if you want to connect with me, there's a link there on the screen. Do reach out. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, on WhatsApp, anywhere. And what I want to do is help to connect the world. As Pooja said, I get a number of awards, but that's not my raison d'etre. Most of the time, I spend time inside organisations. And those organisations, they're just some of the people that I spend time with, I'm retained by, and I work with. So the ideas that I'm going to share with you today are from those organisations. Not just those organisations, there's others besides. But do reach out if you want sort of free books, get on sessions. Much of what we do is available in the public domain. So I'd love to see you on board. So the five, what I call silo busting things we need to do, because we all feel like, I don't know about you sometimes, but you feel like you're trapped inside a silo. It's almost like a straitjacket that constrains your ability to do anything. And from an employee perspective, if we're not creating the right employees' experiences, we can't deliver a really good, excellent customer experience. You know, the two go hand in hand. And as you will probably hear people like Richard Branson talk about it, their most important customer is their employee. So there's a number of steps that we've seen emerging about how we liberate employees, how we burst open these silos and hopefully get rid of them forever. So I'll share some of those things. If you want to dive deeper, again, there's going to be links as we go through it. And of course, within the context of the time that we've got available today, I'd love to have your questions at the end, but also ping me questions once the conference is over. Just as an aside, tomorrow we're going to have sort of three of the sort of leading people in South Africa who are actually going to come onto a panel with us, and they'll no doubt be touching on some of this subject matter as well. So it's not just a one and done; it's like an ongoing story. So yeah, so the five things, let's dive into those. Just before we do that, I thought contextually, this is from yesterday, so it's bang up to date, is what is the interest in and around CX and employee experience as well? And as you can see, CX has really taken off over the sort of last few months, not surprisingly, because we're all needing to focus in our hybridized world on how do we actually deliver great customer experiences. However, I've already said that without liberating our employees, we can't do that. If you're dealing with a customer and you don't have the right information to hand, you don't have the right tools, you don't have the remit to be able to deal with the customer in the moment of truth. If you don't have that ability, then we can talk as much as we want about customer experience, but it's going to be worth naught. I've done a contrast and compare though with another very popular approach, Lean Six Sigma, which has been around now, as we know, for 40 or 50 years. And slowly but surely, the sort of tide is ebbing for Lean Six Sigma. And customer experience, employee experience, the user experience, all those things that we would talk about crafting fantastic experiences, is actually coming to center stage. Those organizations that we would all sort of say, yeah, we love the way they deal with us as customers. What you'll find, the common theme is that they have liberated employees. So I want to get into that. What is a liberated employee, and how do we create that entity for us all so we can make it work for us? So in terms of creating a unified vision, mentioned some organisations there that use this mechanism, and obviously the mechanism is melded into the world. But on record, people like Amazon saying this idea of the North Star has been the guiding light for the last 2 decades. And everybody in Amazon, for instance, knows where the North Star is. Now, of course, that's just a metaphor. And for half the population of the world, the Southern Hemisphere, you can't actually see the North Star. But for those people who can, you'll know the North Star, or sometimes called Polaris, is that star in the night sky, which doesn't appear to move while everything else moves around it. So whatever metaphor you're going to use, whether it's the Southern Cross, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, some people use the beacon on the hill idea. What we need to be doing is aligning everybody with a unified vision for what success looks like on behalf of our customers. So with that in mind, the North Star alignment template, So there's a link down there if you want to watch a sort of there's a like a comprehensive video which goes into the use of this with examples. But essentially what you do with boxes A, B and C is identify from your organization's perspective, exactly as I said, what is our strategy, what are the projects delivering, and then how does the organization currently measure success? And we'll come on to measurements in a few minutes. However, from your perspective and your team's perspective within those organizations, or if you're a consultant helping organizations, what you need to do is sort of calibrate, am I aligned to the strategy? And is indeed the strategy going in the right direction? And how can I influence it? So boxes D to I talk to that agenda. Right down at the individual level, you can use these for performance reviews. You can use this right the way through the collation of strategy at the C-suite level. People talk about strategy top down, but this creates the link. It connects the dots between what individuals are doing and what the organization's trying to do. I'll just draw your attention to one of those boxes, C, which is how is the organization currently measuring success? You know, what are the KPIs? What are the OKRs and that sort of a thing? And then look over on box I, what measurements can we introduce? And I'll touch on this just in a little while, but essential to say that sometimes our organizations, they'll talk customer centricity, they'll talk outside in, they'll talk about all those good things. But when you actually look at the measurement system is very inside out. It's very focused on the things we're doing rather than the things we're delivering. So this is a template, as simple as it is, you know, a 9 box thing that you can fill in at individual level, team level, departmental, divisional, and ultimately the organization level, is a very powerful mechanism. And indeed, if it's helped to create the richest guy on the planet, who are we to argue with its efficacy in terms of the ability to do that? So again, look at the video if you would want to do so on North Star alignment. The second one is, we've already touched on this, haven't we? The silos. You know, they've been trapped inside our respective functional specialist silos, and it's almost like again talking about customer centricity and customer experience, but we find we've sort of put the customers on the end of all our experiences and processes, and we look at our internal processes and they roll and meander around these functions and these specialisms and that sort of a thing. Well, we're not able to deliver a really coherent and successful customer experience if we're constrained by these silos. Organizations who see beyond the silo and of organizing themselves in a different way. So one of those different ways to organize, and again, if you refer to the Amazon annual report from 2020, they talk a little bit about the ethos and how they organize themselves. Now, they might show structures on the left, but what I would say is that structure on the left there with those silos as a backdrop, that's a collective hallucination. It doesn't really exist. It's just a mindset. I mean, this table I'm sat at exists, this chair I'm sat on exists, it's physical, it's in the reality. That organization structure diagram is exactly that. It's just a diagram. So can't we create diagrams which are better for us in the third decade of the 21st century? And of course the answer is yes. So the one you're looking at on the right, and one of my colleagues, a guy called James Dodkins, talks about this in Foundations for Customer Centricity. So if you want a copy of that book, again, ping me, let me know, and I'll get you an electronic version of that for you. And we talk about this in the context of the sort of next practice of those really, you know, companies you and I would admire in terms of delivering consumer service. But beyond that, what about the B2B world? What about that supply chain world? And as some of you may know, Amazon's 80% of their annual revenue is derived from business to business activities. Right? But what they need to do within any context, whether it's B2C, B2B, whether it's for-profit, not-for-profit, public sector, whether it's a customer, a client, a citizen, that C word, they need to organise themselves in such a way that they can give an immediate response at the customer interaction within that moment of truth. So how do they do that? Well, essentially, they put the customer at the centre of everything that they do. And then they have a department called Inner Circle and a department called Outer Circle, if you want to think in a departmental mindset type thing. And the way that actually works for them is that you're either an Inner Circle person, employee, or you're an Outer Circle. And the Outer Circle employees are there to enable the Inner Circle employees. So all those departments and silos go away. Now, of course, within the Inner Circle and Outer Circle, we have specialists. But the way they play the game is through being in collective teams assembled around their customer. So we might have an IT specialist, a finance specialist, a sales specialist, and so on. But they're in the team around the customer. They're not sat in their functional specialist silo, on the other side of the planet somewhere, that type of a thing. They're actually together and working together, so play as a team. And what that enables is the ability to respond to queries, be able to take action in the moment and develop action in the moment capability in and around all their products and services. So as you can see, the diagram on the right, which came from a South African workshop, was it's not just the people, it's the things, it's the technology as well. And some of those technologies are in the inner circle, some are in the outer circle. But it is all about freeing up our people to be able to do the right thing for the customer at that moment of truth. And that's what it comes down to. And it's very fleet of foot. I'll use another much malign word, very agile. It's very immediate. And it's about giving people. So I give you an example from the States. In Nordstrom, for instance, they have this buddying system. And Nordstrom, a high-end retailer, clothes retailer here in the States. And what happens there is if you go in as a customer to Nordstrom, the people that you're dealing with, everybody in the organization, is given the remit to make any decision that they see fit on behalf of the customer. Doesn't have to roll upstairs, roll sideways, they don't have to write a report about it. They don't have to say, oh, I need to refer you to my supervisor or team leader. They're actually trained and enabled to make a decision on behalf of the customer. And the story we tell in one of the books is that, you go in, you've got some trainers, the trainers are broken, you do a lot of running, and so quite naturally they get worn out very quickly. And this guy's been using them for 3 months, and they're quite expensive sort of shoes that he wears to do his athletics. Takes them in and sort of says, oh, I want a replacement for these, they're broken. And she said, oh, I'm very sorry. He said, no, it's no problem. I do like effectively a marathon a day, so it's not surprising they're broken. And the assistant who's helping him says, okay, go and choose your replacement. If we don't have that model, get something that particular brand, get something that's very similar. And then when he's gone away, using the buddying system, she talks to a colleague there and gets the remit to be able to make a decision. The guy comes back, and basically what they do is refund him the money for the first set of trainers that have broken. The second set of trainers they give him free of charge. Now, does that create customer loyalty and all the rest of it? And what did it take to do that? To get that feedback in the moment that obviously the trainers may be broken, and this might be a systemic thing with that particular brand or particular version of that. But at the same time, that messaging. Now, can your organization do that? Can it make decisions in the moment of truth? And that's what I talk about employee liberation. So oftentimes, we give our most precious resource, the customer, to our lowest paid people. I mean, what is that about, right? And our least skilled people. So think about your contact center, think about that environment, and are people engaged and enabled and have the right skills and the right information to hand to be able to make a decision at the moment of truth, not to roll it out or promise we'll get back to you or go and talk to the team leader or supervisor. No, that implies we might have to recruit a different caliber of employee to be in those customer facing roles. And that's the rub, isn't it? Is why would we give our most precious resource, the customer, to our lowest paid, least skilled people, right? Can we not upskill those people so they do have all the attributes and all the information to hand? So that's one mechanism. So we've got the North Star alignment template. That's one route that people take, and then there's this thing we call the organosphere. That's it. Other organisations have played on this theme as well. So people like Zappos in the States have got the allocracy, and it's a similar idea. But keep it simple. Try and think about how would we organise ourselves and what were the levels in the organisation, who's facing off to our customer, who's delivering service and success, and are they enabled and do they have the remit to be able to make the right decisions. The third area we can get into, and this is a real hobby horse of mine, I can sort of get really passionate about results-oriented communication. And when we're talking about results, we're talking about a successful customer outcome, right? Not results measuring what we're doing. So classically in a contact center, we probably measure things like average handle time, abandon rates, number of calls and things like that. And whilst those are important measures in helping us to understand how we're running our contact centers, the really important measures are we delivering a successful customer outcome? Are we delivering success for our customers? Because by doing that, for instance, we'll get all that other stuff. So we need to refocus our measures in terms of thinking about, are we measuring results or are we just measuring things we're doing? And there's various exercises you can do. One of my colleagues, Jim Siner, has written about results-oriented communication and this whole idea of working in parallel. So there's softwares that are emerging that help you to do that. So if you go to that barcode on the bottom right, you'll get access to one sort of free of charge. But essentially what it's doing is helping us to coordinate across all our employees, across all our people, to be achieving the correct results. So in the past, industrial era, we might have thought of results of being, factory orientation, efficiency, effectiveness, throughput, productivity, and so on. Whereas those really customer-centric companies, what they're focused on is the outcome we're trying to achieve on behalf of the customer. Right? Are we in a place to actually enable our employees to do that? Or if I, for instance, if I went down into a classic contact center, let's put it that way, and I'm sure you guys don't have these classic contact centers, and I say to people, the customer's really important. Customer experience is everything. Make sure you deliver absolutely brilliant experiences every day. Oh, but by the way, you've got to get your average handle time down to less than 3 minutes. What have I just done there? I've just lost the whole essence of what it's about. What we should be doing is we should be aligning our people to successful customer outcomes, and that results oriented communication mechanism flowing through the organization, flowing through the different levels, will create a different ethos and a different awareness and a different ability to really deliver customer experience. And one little trick here, and I refer to it as sleight of mouth. Like sleight of hand the magicians do. Well, with sleight of mouth, what you can actually think of is, when we call a contact center, what would we be inclined to be measuring most? Contacts, yeah. It's not rocket science, is it? Ours about renaming our contact centers customer experience centers, because that's actually where we create a lot of the experience our customers have with us. Agreed? And if it was a customer experience center, what would predominantly be the measures that we'd start to put into place which tell us how we're performing in our customer experience center? Yeah, again, it's not brain surgery or rocket science, this. We begin to say, well, are we measuring the experience? And if we're measuring the experience, are we using objective scientific method, or are we using some flaky mechanisms which are subjective and perceptual? And so that's a story for another day. And you can find out more about results-oriented communication from that. So that's the third area. So we've got North Star alignment template, the organosphere, and yes, results-oriented communication. So what's the fourth of the 5 ideas here as well? This leveling up rewards and remuneration. And this plays directly back into that territory of our lowest paid people, our least skilled people, giving them the customer. And hey, by the way, if you get good, as one of the lowest paid people, the least skilled, if you get anywhere as good, what do? Yeah, we promote you away from the customer. How bizarre is that? Why would we want to do that? Truly customer-centric companies focus on allowing you to become more capable in the role that you've got. And particularly if you're in a customer-facing role, we know, for instance, that people who have an affinity with people, then we should keep them there and we should reward them accordingly. Not restrict them by that old pyramidal silo functional specialist thinking. What we should do is enable those teams to perform at their optimum and reward them accordingly. So some points within that. In the industrial area, we sort of focused on outputs. How much have you done today? Customer-centric companies, truly mature customer-centric companies, are focused, as we talked about on the North Star alignment template, on the outcomes you want to achieve, right? Those outcomes, those deliverables for the customer are what produce what we refer to as triple crown: lower costs, higher revenue, and improved service. If you're in the public sector, you could do more with less in terms of the money that you receive from whoever gives you the money, whether it's the government, whether it's the kingdom, whoever is providing the money. In not-for-profits as well, is you have an opportunity then, again, to do more with less. So freeing up people from doing dumb stuff, right, is key and critical here. And of course, one of the adages I use a lot is, if you pay people for doing dumb stuff, they'll get really smart at it, right? So we want to figure out what is the right thing to be doing. What does success look like for our customer? And are we paying people for contributing to delivering successful customer outcomes? Are we just paying them for completing tasks? Because tasks is so 19th and 20th century now. So that mindset is has shifted in those truly customer centric companies, but it begins with a journey, doesn't it? You might sort of say, well, that's not the way we work around here. Well, why not start to think about that? The journey of the 10,000 miles, as the Chinese sages say, it begins with that first step. So rewards and remuneration are critical. And it's almost like, in some instances, I'll give you another example. The Zappos folks in Las Vegas in the US, people in their front line who are dealing with customers are frequently paid more than people that we might have regarded as the old management team. So if you think of that inner circle and outer circle, the inner circle people are being rewarded for achieving successful customer outcomes. And a real good definition of that is if we think of a good football team, and when I talk about football, the game you play with your feet, soccer as the Americans call it. And when I'm thinking of a good football team, do we put our lowest paid people out on the pitch to deliver success for the fans? No, that'd be really crazy, that wouldn't it? No, we have our best people out on the pitch who are delivering the result for their customer, the fans, and hopefully scoring more goals than the opposition to actually win the game. That sort of line of thought is what we should be pursuing across most of our organisations, but we tend to be still stuck in that functional specialist silo way of thinking. For customer experience professionals like ourselves, it's on us to actually make that change happen. It's on us to actually upskill ourselves to be able to go and do these things and encourage our organisation to begin to measure success in a different way, not measuring it in terms of what we're doing, but in terms of what we're delivering for our customers. So that's the fourth area. So the fifth area I wanted to talk to, and I mentioned this, connecting the dots between success. This mechanism, and it appears in various forms across those sort of leading organisations that we talk about. This particular mechanism, we refer to it as the performance landscape. And the process guys use an element of this called the process performance. When we're in the CX world and we're looking at really customer-focused organisations, it consists of the customer performance landscape. And I'm not going to go into it. There's another sort of video down there which you can actually read and engage around this. But essentially what it does is connect everything and everybody right the way through the rewards, the mindsets, our complete digital capability, through the business rules, right the way up through the moments of truth, right the way through to a successful customer outcome. So it becomes a virtual mechanism that we can demonstrate how we connect the dots and how we draw the lines between everything and everybody is doing and the ultimate success to the customer. The video explains a little bit more, but that when we talk connect the dots and draw the lines, it's a literal thing. It's not a mindset thing. It's using mechanisms like the performance landscape. We could show anything on this in terms of what the organisation's doing. We can establish a top-down strategy. We can look at it from a human resources point of view. We could talk about digital CX and look at our capability. Are we providing the right tools at the right point in time for our people, our employees, to be able to make the correct decisions? So that's number 5. So bringing those together again, create a unified vision, North Star alignment template, collaborate, work and play and train as a team. Organise yourselves. You don't have to be constrained by that collective hallucination anymore. That might be what you show on the annual report, but we don't have to organise ourselves in that way. If we organise ourselves around our customers and create the inner circle and the outer circle and then connect the dots for those people and develop results-oriented communications which are focused on outcomes, not outputs, not those old tired mechanisms that we used to use in the factories. Why do we still use those? Oh, that's because the way we do things around it. But we don't have to carry on doing it that way. Level up the rewards, so make sure that our most highly prized resource, the customer, is being dealt with by our best people. The people who can actually deliver success for our customers, who are in those conversations, they're in those moments of truth, and they're able to take those moments of truth and turn them into moments of magic. That's got to be the way. And then the fifth and final one, as we said, was unifying everything and everyone towards successful customer outcomes, and the mechanism for that being the performance landscape. So I hope that's worthwhile. You want this talk, obviously our friends are going to make that available to you subsequent to the conference, but I've also got a link on a page there as well where you can deep dive into some of the things I've been talking about. So there's mini videos, there's interviews with people and that sort of a thing. I already mentioned the book, so again, if you let me know through that link you want the book, it'd be my pleasure to sort of send you a free sort of hard copy of it. And then, of course, I'm going to invite you to some of our programs, as I would do, of course, through our partners and through ourselves, so that you can individually upskill, but also collectively as a team, if need be, upskill to be able to do these things for your organization and join in that groundswell, which is customer experience. It's a great place to be on the planet at the moment, is involved in customer experience. So the more we can encourage each other to be able to do that, that's our raison d'etre. So thank you very much, guys. That was great fun. Even though it's a wee small hours, it's like 2 a.m. In the US at the moment. But hey, as people know me, they know I only need 4 hours sleep a night, so I've already done that. So there we go, guys. So thank you, Pooja. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll see you tomorrow if you want to come in and join our panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Steve, please share the link of your book with us. We will share it with we'll share it with all our attendees. They can probably download, if they can download a free copy, we'll push a notification for you. Definitely will
Yeah,
do.
fantastic. Good.
Just share it with me, and we will definitely do it. Thank you for the great presentation, Steve, and I look forward to meeting you tomorrow as well.
Yeah, look forward to it. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, Steve. Bye.